Welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast. I'm Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned entrepreneur and mom of two. As women, we are so much more than just one thing. We're wives, moms, entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and dreamers with goals and ambition. On this podcast, we'll talk about everything from juggling family, work, and fun to making your dreams a reality through simple, effective marketing strategies, all designed specifically for the busy mom who doesn't have a lot of extra time. So whether you're just getting started or already have an established business, there's something here for you. If you're ready to take on the challenge of becoming your own boss and making your dreams a reality, then let's get started because this girl means business. Hey there, welcome back to the Girl Means Business podcast. This is episode 220. Okay, today I want to talk about something that I'm seeing all over the internet right now, and especially being talked about on social media platforms. And that is the idea of a social media recession. What does that mean? Are we in one? And what does that mean for your business? So let's get into all the things today. First, I want to talk about what exactly is a social media recession. Well, I mean, just like any other recession in our society, it's when things kind of are on a downhill slide. Engagement is down, viewership is down, usage is down. And there's a couple of reasons why I think that this is happening and why it's happening now. And some of them are good and some of them are like, okay, that could be better. But what I think the major thing is that we're coming off of, this 3-year high, or really maybe a 2-year high in social media, where we had COVID, we had everything shut down. Everybody was home back in 2020, parts of 2021. People were working from home more, and they just had more time. They had more time to spend on social media. They had more time to invest in social media. TikTok came around, and that was a big craze. And everybody, anytime something new and exciting comes along, people like jump all on it, and they're really excited about it, and they're logging in for hours at a time, scrolling TikTok videos. And then Instagram Reels came along, and we were spending all this time scrolling Instagram Reels, and Facebook added video, and the cycle continues. But what happened was we had this spike. Everything went up. Everything was like, okay, everybody's home, everybody's got more time. So social media views, social media engagement, the amount of time people were posting and spending on social media went up. And so we ended up with this new normal, because it wasn't like for a month it spiked. It was a good 2 years that this spiked. And we had really high engagement. And we saw people who were coming into the online space and saying like, look, I just started Instagram and I now have 5 million followers. And you saw a lot of these kind of what seemingly felt like overnight successes. And it caused us to start to go, oh, wow, there are a lot of people who became very popular and who created entire careers around their social media from this social media boom that we had in the last 2 years. You see people, like I know right now everybody's talking about the comedian Matt Rife. I think that's how you say his name. He's all over Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and he's selling out shows everywhere. And he really gained popularity in the last couple of years from his TikTok videos. We've seen musicians who have had this happen where they just kind of seemingly popped out of nowhere because they became Instagram famous or TikTok famous. And that's because people were spending all of this time consuming content. So now what's happening is you have people who are coming down from the hilltop. They're coming down. The spike is now trending in a downward direction, because in those last 2 years, we had this new normal of, okay, well, everything's way up here. And I'm doing hand motions like you can actually see me, but you get the point. So everything was way up here. We got in thinking like, we should be getting thousands of views on our reels, and we should be getting thousands of likes and hundreds of comments and all these things, because that was the new normal. But now that things have slowly started kind of coming down back to sort of what it was before, maybe even slightly lower than it was before, we're all comparing what we're seeing now to what that spike was for the last 2 years. Whereas if you go back pre-COVID, it wasn't like that. It was, if you were thinking about like a chart or a graph, and let's say it was on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like the absolute highest, pre-COVID, most of our engagement was probably at like a 6 average. And then all of a sudden COVID hits and it spikes up to a 10. And now we're coming back down to like a 5. And we're getting really frustrated because we're like, well, wait a minute. We want it to be back at the 10. But that's just not sustainable for a lot of people, because as people start to go back to work, as kids go back to school, as things kind of started getting back to like a normal life situation, I think we all realized like, oh, that was a really nice time where we could, have this extra time to do all the things spend all this time online. But now like reality sets in, like, oh, I have to actually go back to, being in an office or being in a classroom or being in a work environment or whatever it is that you're going each day. And, or even just if you still work from home and you're running your business from home, like still you're having to kind of get back to like, well, everybody else is going back to normal, so I have to go back to normal as well. And so that is where we're starting to see this dip. The other thing I see happening is we peaked out at this 10 level of usage and engagement. And I think it burned a lot of people out. I saw so many people who on social media and online were saying like, I went 125% into the last 2 years of building this thing online or spending this time online. And I'm done. Like, I'm tired. It's not worth it. It's all consuming. It's exhausting. Whether it is as a creator that you're burned out of this constant hamster wheel of like, I've got to crank out this new content all the time and it's just too much. Or on the flip side, the consumer is like, I am so tired of just consuming stuff that doesn't really matter sometimes. And not to say that our content doesn't matter, but I think that they just are at a point where they're like, I don't want to be consuming all the time. And on top of that, you add in all of the mental health stuff that comes along with social media. You've got the comparison, which is a huge piece of it, the imposter syndrome, the trying to keep up with the Joneses, like all the things. And I think people just we hit that peak. And as we're coming down off the peak, we're like, do I really want to be spending this much time on social media, whether it's as a creator or as a consumer? And ultimately, I think both sides have said, not so much out loud necessarily, but they've made the decision for themselves. Like, I don't know that I want to spend that much time on social media. I know for me personally, I kind of came to that conclusion. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I was tracking and I was putting so much time and energy into my Instagram account. And I was like, what is this really doing for me? And I talked about this in a past episode, and I don't remember exactly which episode it was, but I talked about how in 2022, I really went all in on like, I want to see if I put in all of this effort, energy, what results will it get me on my social media account? And I tracked every little piece of analytics over that 1 year. And I went into like how many followers, which pieces of content were getting the most engagement, how many of was it from hashtags? Was it from explore page? Was it from organic reach? Was it, what was my reach? What was my comments? I was tracking so many things. And yes, I saw a really good amount of growth. But the bottom line was, it didn't really help me grow my business. It helped me grow my social media and it helped me get more followers, but it wasn't growing my bottom line. It wasn't growing my business. And I think that is where a lot of us are starting to kind of have the same revelation of, social media is great. And it's this incredible tool that we have to reach a large audience. But if it's not actually helping me grow my business, or it's making me feel worse about myself, is that really worth the trade-off of the amount of time and energy that I'm spending on these platforms? So the result of that kind of across the board is that everybody is seeing a decline on their reach, their engagement, their comments, their share, all the things. Their story views are down, their content views are down. The comments are down. And we're seeing this in accounts of all different sizes. So I help manage a social media account for a very large social media creator. They have over 600,000 followers. And prior to 2023, they were getting, on average, for a typical post or reel, they were getting around 500 to 600 comments. Their reels were getting views in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions. And post 2022, so starting in 2023, when we started seeing a real decline in social media, and Instagram in particular for this account, they started seeing the same decrease. They started seeing, instead of getting 500 comments, they were getting 100 comments. Instead of getting 50,000 views, they were getting 5,000 views. Instead of getting, 300 messages a day in their DMs, they were getting 125 messages a day in the DMs. So it's not just smaller accounts that we're seeing this, larger accounts we're seeing this too, which is one of the reasons I have continued to work with this account, is because I like being able to see what this an account of this size is seeing as along with what I'm seeing in my own personal accounts. And so it's given me a really good perspective on, like, it's not just those of us with like under 10,000 followers. Even the larger accounts are seeing the same kind of downward trend that the rest of us are seeing. Another thing I think is sort of falling into this is that along sort of with the burnout came the idea that Instagram and there's all this kind of uncertainty around TikTok, and I know like Twitter's made some changes, Facebook's kind of stayed the same, but Meta as a whole is sort of making changes, and it really affected, I know for me, the Instagram audience, because that's where a lot of the changes were taking place, and people became really unhappy with the direction that some of these platforms were going. They were unhappy with sort of some of the ways that the platforms were changing, the updates they were making. And I think that kind of led into also the consumer side kind of going, I don't know if this is really worth my time. Again, kind of going back to that same thing of what is my time, like how do I want to fill my spare time? Do I want to fill it like mindlessly scrolling, or do I want to fill it doing something else? And a lot of times they're choosing the something else. Now they're obviously still on these platforms. They're just not as active on the platforms as they used to be. So all that to say, we are what I would consider inside of a social media revolution. We're not in a revolution. We are in a social media recession. And that's not necessarily a terrible thing. There are definitely pros and cons to this. Again, one of them being that it's across the board. It is not just, I see so many people messaging and comment being like, oh, I feel like, I'm doing something wrong. My account is terrible. Like my account's failing. It's not just you. Okay. And I'm going to say that one more time. It's not just you. You are not alone in feeling that way. There are accounts across the entire platforms of all different niches, industries, styles, sizes that are seeing and feeling this recession in social media. And so that alone should give you a little bit of peace of mind to know that it's not necessarily something you're doing wrong. It is just the phase that we are in. And I do believe that it will have an upward swing again. Now, will it ever get as high as it was, possibly, but I think we'll start to kind of see the sort of leveling out, this ebb and flow. And a quick reminder too is that here in the States, we are going into the summer months. We're in it. We're in June at the time of this episode comes out, and that's always a slower time. Summers and big holidays are always going to be slower on social media because people are putting their phones down more and they're spending time with families. They're going on vacation. They're spending days at the pool, or they're just trying to be more present and enjoying things in life as opposed to just being on their phone all the time. So one of the pros, again, is it's not just you. It's this consistent across the platforms. Obviously, the con is if you're trying to grow your business and social media is one of your tools and your outlets that you use, you're seeing a little bit of a backslide in that. And that's okay. It's stressful and it's frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. So what can we do inside of this recession to make sure that our accounts continually are doing what we want them to do. The first thing I would say is I want you to get very, very clear on what the purpose and the goal of your social media account is. This is going to help a lot, because if you're thinking, well, I just need to be posting more, well, that's not going to get you better results. Posting more is not going to get you better results. Creating better content is not going to get you necessarily the best results if you don't have a clear purpose behind why you're doing this in the first place. So I want you to really think about, like, what is my goal? Is my goal to get more clients? Is my goal to get people onto my email list? Is my goal to sell a product? Is my goal to sell a service? Is my goal just to build brand awareness? Is my goal, to get brand deals, to get companies to want to pay me? Is my purpose to market my podcast? What is the purpose behind this account?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you've been listening to the Girl Means Business podcast for any amount of time, then you know my love of email marketing runs deep. Not only is it a great way to generate new leads, but it's one of the most effective methods for nurturing warm leads and turning them into sales. Now, over the years, I've tested several email platforms, and my favorite by far is Flowdesk. Not only do they make email marketing simple and easy, even for the technically challenged, but they have everything you need to create stunning emails, capture leads, make sales, and automate the entire process, giving you time back in your busy day. And the cherry on top is you're only charged one flat fee no matter how many subscribers you have. So while other platforms will increase your price when you go over your pricing tier limit, Flowdesk has no price increases or hidden fees. If you're ready to give Flowdesk a try, click the link below in the show notes to save 50% off your first year. Let Flowdesk help you design emails people will love. Click the link below and check it out. I have a feeling you're going to love it just as much as I do. I will say, for example, in my photography business, the purpose behind my photography account is to generate leads. It's to get people onto my email list. It's to get people aware of my brand. Those are my goals. And so when I'm creating content, when I'm deciding, like, what am I going to post about? And do I need to post this funny trending reel? Is that really going to lean towards my ultimate goal? Or am I doing it just for the hopes of, like, getting a bunch of likes because it's a trend? And so once you have that clear goal, that vision for, like, what is it? Then you can start looking at, okay, well, if my goal is to drive traffic to my email list, what am I offering them? Okay, so let's say I'm offering them, I'll use my Girl Means Business account. One of my lead magnets is my email marketing starter kit. So if my goal is to drive traffic from social media to my email list, and I'm offering them my free email marketing starter kit, I'm going to create a schedule. I'm going to create content that leads to my free email starter kit. So I'm not going to create a trending post, a trending reel that has nothing to do with what my ultimate goal is, which is driving people to my email list. If my goal is to get people to book a session with me or to hire me, then I'm going to be posting content that drives them to that. So having that clear goal and purpose, not only is it going to help you to feel like you're actually creating content and doing something on social media that is productive, but it's going to give your audience a clear vision of, like, oh, this is not just fluff. Like, this is actual content that's driving me to something. They're asking me to do something. They're asking me to, sign up for this thing or attend this free training, or they're providing me value that will ultimately lead me to wanting to sign up for the free thing or the free training or whatever it is you're offering. So having a clear goal, having a clear understanding of, like, what's the purpose. Now, I will say here too, if your purpose if you're writing this down, you're going, okay, step one, create a purpose, create a goal. My goal is to get more clients. You need to have something in between that, because unless you are selling a physical product that is, I would say, moderately priced or low ticket price, you're likely not going to just have somebody scrolling by and go, oh, let me buy that. The reason why is because when you think about the client journey, let's say, you're a photographer, you offer family sessions, you're marketing your family sessions, or you have back to school mini sessions you're marketing coming up for August. And so you put it out on social media, and your hope is, I'm going to post this thing about my mini sessions, and I'm going to have all these people from social media, they're going to sign up. Or I'm going to create an ad, and I'm going to push it out to Instagram and Facebook, and I'm going to have all these people sign up. The problem is you're skipping a step. So if your purpose is to get clients, then you need to have something in the middle of that. They're not going to go from scrolling by to booking a session. You need something else. You need to have them scroll by and get value, scroll by, sign up for a freebie, get on your email list, then get them to become a client. So make sure the goal and the purpose you have for your social media account actually aligns with what the consumer actions are. And if you're not sure, feel free to reach out to me, send me a DM over on Instagram or an email, and I'd be happy to chat with you a little bit more about how to get your goals and purposes for social media in alignment. The second thing you can do here, or what I want you to start working on. So the first one is get very clear on your goals and your purpose for using social media. The second thing is just to come up with a consistent posting schedule. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I struggle with this because I know consistency is key. And there are times when I have scheduled out weeks in advance of content. And then there are times when I'm just like, I don't have it in me right now to create content. And I'm kind of in a slump right now. I'm a little bit of a content slump because I'm kind of like, I don't really have that spark of like, oh, these are things I want to put out on social media. But despite that, it is helpful to stay consistent because you stay top of mind. You are, and consistent doesn't mean constantly. I say that all the time. Consistency does not mean constantly. It just means that you are doing something on a regular basis, whether it's once a week, twice a week, 5 times a week, whatever's sustainable for you. But create some kind of consistent plan for your business when it comes to how often you're creating content. And the third thing is, and one of the great things about this recession, the pros for it, is that this is a great time to experiment with different types of content and different things within your social media posting. So this is a time to look at it and go, okay, if I post 5 days a week at 8 a.m., what kind of results do I get if I do that for 2 weeks? Versus like, okay, well, if I post Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m., does that get different results? Or what if I post on just Tuesday, Thursdays, but I do it in the evenings? I do it at like 6:15 p.m. This is because there's the stakes are kind of lower. It's a really good time to go, okay, let me look at whether it's posting time or type of content. If you're like, okay, well, I really wasn't loving Reels, so I'm glad that's kind of not dying off, but I'm glad it's not like the thing anymore. Try carousels, try single image posts, try, posts that are just like maybe like short little couple of second videos, like not necessarily of you, but like of, music and like a slideshow type thing. Try long captions, short captions, try out different things. And again, because the stakes are pretty low right now, like there's not this urgency to like go viral all the time. This is a great opportunity to look at the content you've been putting out and go, is there a way that I can make this more exciting? Is there something that I can do that's going to be more fun for me? Because a lot of times we create this idea around social media that it all needs to be about, I'm creating it for my audience. And yeah, you are creating it for your audience in some sense because you want to draw them in. But you also need to enjoy it. So look at it for a little while and go, what can I do? What type of content can I create that is going to be fun and exciting for me? Break some rules, get out of your box, like do something different. It doesn't have to be what everybody else is doing. In fact, it's probably better if it's not what everybody else is doing. If you are a photographer and you've been looking at a million different photographers on your feed and going, well, they're all doing X, Y, or Z, look at somebody in a different industry and go, well, what are they doing over in the, course creator industry space or in the virtual assistant space or in whatever. Like find a different industry, a different niche, and go, what are they doing? What type of content are they putting out? And how can that maybe translate into what I'm doing in my photography business? Because that can also give you a little bit of like a creative push to be excited about creating content again. So I want you to do the 3 things I talked about. So the first one is get really clear on what is your goal and purpose for your account. This is going to be the first thing, and it might take a little bit of thought, but I really think that once you look at like, oh, what is my purpose here? Why am I putting this content out? And is it going to have like the result that I want it to have? I think that's going to free you a little bit and make you feel a little bit lighter and a little bit more like, okay, now I know that like if I'm going to create content, it needs to have this purpose behind it. Secondly, I want you to get a little bit more consistent with when you're posting. And again, that does not mean you have to post every single day or twice a day or, even every other day. Just create a consistent schedule that works for you. And then 3 is experiment. Don't be afraid to use this time to get creative, think outside the box, change up how you're posting or when you're posting or what that consistent schedule looks like. If you're used to doing 5 days a week, scale back and do 3 days a week. Or if you're doing 2 days a week now, see if you can't push yourself to do 4 or 5 days a week and see if that doesn't change things. If you're consistently posting into your feed, but not in your stories, set that goal. Say, you know what? I've got it figured out. I know how to post into my feed a couple times a week consistently. I have it scheduled out. I'm ready. I'm good to go there. What I struggle with is showing up in my stories or finding ways to connect in the DMs with people. So these are ways that I want you to start kind of thinking outside the box. Use this time when it's a little bit like low pressure time to really kind of go in there and go, okay, what can I do differently so that we can sort of freshen things up? Because if we're just doing the same things all the time in social media, it's going to get boring. And if we're bored, our audience is bored too. So hopefully that helps. I know that social media is such a beast. It is a love-hate relationship for sure. But if we can at least get it helping us building our business in the way that we want it to and the way we need it to, then it can really be an incredible tool for our business. So hopefully that helps. Let me know. Head over to Instagram, find me at Girl Means Business. Let me know what you thought of this episode or if you have any questions about anything that we talked about here today. And I will see you back here next week.